Do you remember that time when every car manufacturer wanted to save the world with an eco-friendly car, but without giving up on the idea of snapping your neck every time you accelerate? That was the era of big promises, brilliant concepts, and budgets that hadn't yet understood what reality meant. And that's where the Fisker Karma comes in. A car as ambitious as a campaign speech, as beautiful as an Aston Martin drawn on a night of divine inspiration, and as reliable as a Soviet toaster. It was supposed to embody the future, luxury, and clean performance. In reality, it mostly ended up embodying recalls, spontaneous fires, and the wild dreams of an engineer who would go bankrupt twice in 10 years. So here's the story of the Fisker Karma, a car designed to change the world before going up in smoke. It all started in the mid-2000 SC. Back then, the notion of a high-performance electric car was even more ridiculous than a gas-powered fridge. But Henrik Fisker, a Danish designer with a resume as long as a Porsche options catalog, decided to attempt the impossible. Henrik Fisker is no ordinary person. He's the guy who designed the BMW Z8, the Aston Martin DB9, the V8 Vantage. In short, he knows how to make beautiful cars. And one day he thought, what if I stopped working for others and started my own brand? That's how Fisker Automotive was born in 2007. But Henrik didn't just want to make another supercar for millionaires. He wanted to make a clean car, a luxury car, electric, but with real style, real presence. A car as beautiful as an Aston, as green as a spinach smoothie, and as futuristic as a Tesla, which, by the way, at that time, didn't really exist yet. Here is the result. The Fisker Karma. The Karma is a sedan that's almost 5 meters long, as wide as an SUV, and as low as a supercar, with a design that turns every head, even those who don't like cars. It had this kind of quiet fierceness in its lines, the kind of car that, even when parked, seems to say, "Yeah, I'm gorgeous, I know it." Technically, the Fisker Karma wasn't fully electric. It was what's called a plug-in hybrid with a range extender. Basically, it had 2 electric motors in the back powered by a 20 kilowatt lithium-ion battery. And when that battery was empty, a 2-liter turbocharged gasoline engine from General Motors would kick in. But be careful, this gasoline engine wasn't used to drive the car, it was only used to recharge the battery. The engine would turn a generator that produced electricity, which then went to the electric motors. And those would turn the wheels. It might seem strange and especially complicated, but at the time it was considered a brilliant solution. In fully electric mode, the Karma could travel about 80 kilometers, which at the time was very good. Then, once the battery was empty, the combustion engine would take over and you could go about 400 more kilometers. On paper, it was great. In real life, a bit less so. In 2011, the Fisker Karma arrived on the market a year before the first Tesla Model S. It cost about $100,000 and it was successful. Leonardo DiCaprio bought one, Justin Bieber too, among others. The interior is filled with recycled materials, wood from naturally fallen trees, and eco-friendly leather. It's pure luxury with an eco-friendly approach. But very quickly, the troubles begin. Technical, mechanical, electronic, and computer problems, in short, every possible issue. The battery, for example, was supplied by the American company A1, 2, 3 Systems, and let's just say that reliability really wasn't their strong point. Some cells were poorly soldered, which caused power outages, sudden shutdowns, warnings on the dashboard, and even, in the worst cases, fires. Because yes, several Fisker Karma cars literally caught fire, some while parked, others after being flooded. In fact, about 100 Karma cars stored in a New Jersey port were submerged by Hurricane Sandy, and some of them caught fire. We also need to talk about the Consumer Reports test. The famous magazine bought a Karma to test it. As a result, the car broke down even before the test had started. It took 2 tows to get it working, and when it did work, the behavior was strange. The onboard computer crashes regularly, the braking feels spongy, and the combustion engine, which is supposed to be quiet, sometimes starts to roar, like a hairdryer possessed by the devil. And then there's the weight. The Karma weighed 2.4 tons, that's huge, it's heavier than a Range Rover. However, we're discussing a sedan designed to be nimble and athletic. But as a result, even with 403 horsepower, it did 0 to 60 in over 6 seconds and topped out at 200 kilometers per hour. So yes, it's not ridiculous, but it's not very impressive either for such a beautiful and expensive car. But despite all these flaws, there was hope. The company had raised more than $1 billion, and even the American government believed in it. The Department of Energy granted a loan of more than $500 million to Fisker, just as it had done for Tesla. Except that, unlike Tesla, Fisker didn't survive. In 2012, A123 Systems, the battery supplier, went bankrupt, which is rather problematic because without a battery, the Karma can't move forward. Some critics argue that even with a battery, it didn't move, which is partially true. Then sales drop, then recalls pile up, then the boss, Henrik Fisker, resigns. In March 2013 and in November of the same year, the company goes bankrupt. At that time, only 2,450 units of the Karma had been produced, which is very little, especially when you think about all the investments, all the promises, all the dreams that went up in smoke. But that's not the end of the story. In 2014, a Chinese group, Wangxiang, bought the remains of Fisker Automotive and decided to relaunch the Karma under a new name, the Karma Revero. It's basically the same car with a few improvements. New electronics, better reliability, new badge. It's still produced in small numbers for very special clients, and it still costs a small fortune. And Henrik Fisker, he hasn't had his last word yet. In 2016, he founded a new company, Fisker Incorporation, which will offer a 100% electric SUV called the Fisker Ocean. Except that in 2024, only 8 years after the creation of the brand and 2 years after the Ocean was launched on the market, the brand will go bankrupt. And to get back to the Karma, today it's a collector's item, a cult car for those who love failures. Magnificent, the rare models still on the road are cherished, maintained with passion. It must be admitted that it remains one of the most beautiful sedans ever designed. A car that failed, yes, but also paved the way for others. It proved that you could think differently even if you failed. The Fisker Karma is a bit like that brilliant friend in high school, the one who wrote poems, played guitar, and had great ideas, but who ended up ruining everything because he plugged a coffee maker into his amp. An elegant tragedy, a shooting star, but you know what? Despite all its flaws, all its failures, all its fire hazards, I really like this car. Because at least it tried. It didn't copy, it didn't play it safe at all, it dared. And just for that, it deserves to be remembered, doesn't it? Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming ones.